Vicky, and thank you everybody for coming out and the opportunity to talk some gear and introduce you to our new transceiver, the DIRACT VOICE. So I do want to give a short brand introduction for those that may not be as familiar with Ortovox. We are a German brand based in Munich, southern Germany, in the Bavarian Alps. And we are what we call a complete mountain brand. So what that means is we make products particularly for mountain sports, and especially ski touring. And that's not only avalanche rescue equipment, shovels, beacons, probes, but that's also airbag packs and regular packs for activities, ski touring to climbing, to hiking, and a wool-based apparel line with base layers all the way to outer shells. So a complete mountain brand, but our focus today is on the what we would call the core of Ortovox, which is avalanche rescue equipment, and that goes back to our very first product in 1980, which was an avalanche transceiver, and that was called the F2, frequency 2. And at that time, there was a problem in the market, and that there were two frequencies of transceivers in use, and those two frequencies were not compatible with each other. So Ortovox's first product was a transceiver that could send and receive on both of these frequencies, solving again, a really critical problem on the market. And why I bring up this, ancient history is because that really sets the standard for transceiver development at our brand, at Ortovox brand. And I mean, what that means is, it's been 9 years since we have released a new transceiver on the market. And it kind of goes back to that standard. If we're not really pushing the technology, we don't release new products. So again, a mantra of the brand to share, and again, in a kind of a setting the stage for where our direction was with DIRACT VOICE. So what is the problem we were identifying with the DIRACT VOICE, and what did we want to address, and what was our path? There's a lot of directions you can go in transceiver development, but we started with, of course, a lot of research, and it started to open our eyes to which paths were going to be the most important in the development of our new transceiver. And we also wanted to, of course, set up a goal. What's the goal of our new transceiver? And our goal was, to make the most intuitive, easiest to use avalanche transceiver ever. And how are we going to do that? Well, again, back to this research, and opening our eyes to the different channels that we could pursue that goal. We did a survey of Ortovox followers. This is responded to about 5,000 respondents, and these aren't just anybody; these are actually the followers of Ortovox brand. And we asked them, what is your knowledge of avalanche rescue? And we were surprised that 45%, around 45%, said they had little to no knowledge of avalanche rescue. And this was pretty eye-opening for us. And again, in the context of which direction we should go in our transceiver development, we of course always are getting feedback from our professional partners, guide services, course providers like yourselves, and getting the feedback. Where do students struggle in using an avalanche transceiver? What parts of the search are the most common struggles found, and how can we address those? So again, another direction for us in this path of what developments we should really pursue. And it started to become really clear that the voice commands was a real strong way to deal with these problems. So we're going to introduce you. Greg will be up here in a second to kind of show you what these voice commands are, but we wanted to kind of set the stage of this was our direction, this was our goal in introducing voice commands, that if we can help people direct them at critical stages of a search, we make a more confident searcher, which equals a faster searcher, which ultimately, again, serves our goal to make the most easiest and fastest transceiver on the market. When we started really investigating voice commands, we were also learned from psychologists that the voice commands also provide a level of calmness for the searcher. And it feels like you have a partner. And this calmness leads to clearer decision-making. Again, clear decision-making serving our ultimate goal of confident decisions equals faster decisions equals faster searches. So this was again, a primary effort of ours to make sure that this development path was the correct path. And the more we researched and the more we got feedback, the clearer it became that this voice commands was going to be a next level opportunity for us to develop in transceivers. So there's an introduction, and we have Greg is going to take you through a few of the voice commands. Oh, one thing I did forget, DIRACT, the name. I always like to point out to folks that, you know, it's not a typo. You know, that made it all the way through 9 years plus of development. DIRACT is we like our shortened combined words into shortened one word. Direct action is the combined word for direct. So that's where the name comes from. It's not a typo. That should have been direct or something else, but DIRACT, short for direct action. So want to add that quick point. So Greg, let's introduce them to the commands.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. And yeah, what I'd like to do is to discuss how the voice navigation basically supports you. It is not a standalone. It doesn't eliminate any other features that you find in a traditional 3-antenna digital transceiver. It's there to support you and primarily support the rescuer in all phases of the search. And so I'm going to pull up here and share a screen with you of a PDF that we have in our workbook. And you'll also have this in your resources that area is provided for you on the Dropbox. And so I'm just going to take you through here a little bit and also then give you a demo of the voices so you can hear them as they actually are given by the transceiver. But initially in the signal search, which arguably this is the most stressful phase of the search, that the rescuer, when they go from send into search, they're going to be instructed by the voice navigation in how to conduct a proper strip search. And the actual command is going to be run in 50-meter search strips and look out. The device will also sense EMI, electromagnetic interference, and can adjust the search strip width. So it might say 20 meters, but this is key. This is groundbreaking right now, where imagine that you are alone and now you aren't really not alone. You have an instructor, you have a coach that is telling you the right procedure to follow and calming you down and keeping you focused. So this is the very first command that you'll hear if you enter signal search. Then as you first pick up the signal, and the very first signal, when you are in course search, you will once again get another voice command. It will tell you to run straight, to turn left, to turn right. It will correlate with the signal that you see on the screen with the directional arrow. It will correlate with that. At this point, if you simply follow the directional arrow and use the transceiver like a traditional device, you will not get any more support at this point. You are on the right track. It's not there to tell you keep moving forward. It's only going to give you actionable information. But critically, in the course search, if you stray from the flux line, if you don't follow the directional arrows correctly, then you will be corrected, course corrected, and you will receive a voice command: run left, turn right, keep left, keep right. And that is key. At this point where the rescuer becomes comfortable with the device through practice, we expect that people will start to keep their head up more often now at this phase of the search and not be pinned to their screen. And they'll be able to look at the debris field and perhaps pick up surface clues, or at least they'll be more comfortable navigating avalanche debris. So this is something that when we ask people to experiment and demo the transceiver for the first time, we often ask them as they enter the course search to purposely not look at the screen and just to trust the voice navigation. And this is really the aha moment for people. And it'll also allow you on purpose to experience all of the voice commands. If you follow the flux line the long way, it'll even tell you to turn around. As you move into the find search phase, and as the rescuer approaches approximately 6 to 7 meters, the transceiver will instruct them on how they should prepare themselves to enter find search mode. And this was really key. We asked Ortovox why they chose 6 to 7 meters, and with all the practice and the testing that they did with both professionals and with consumers, they realized that consumers need some time to get ready to be on their knees at 3 meters, to be ready to be at the snow surface. So around 6 to 7 meters, you will hear the transceiver instruct you to go down to the snow surface. And it's at that point that it's preparing you, like your landing strip, at 3 meters to be in the proper position to conduct your find search. At 3 meters, of course, you lose the directional arrow and the screen goes to what you expect in find search mode. And then the rescuer is instructed to search for the lowest value, the lowest distance. At this point, we clean up the screen too. You'll notice if you were expecting to continue to see a signal indicator of 1 or 2 or 3 victims, Ortovox decided to leave that off of the screen, that they only wanted the rescuer to be focused with their limited cognitive ability at this point to only be focused on what was the most important action or task at this point in time. So they will be shown this graphic that you see here with the distance in meters. And then there is one final voice navigation where, as you are bracketing, if you move beyond and further away from the lowest signal, the transceiver will tell you that you were closer, and to give you an opportunity verbally, as well as with the audible beeps and the distances. Now you have 3 different ways as a rescuer of pinpointing the lowest point and to begin your pinpoint search. So this gives you an idea of how it supports you in all the phases. And now I would like to give you a little demo from our website. This is something that you can find on our website if you go to the DIRACT VOICE page. And first you can see this where it gives you all the information on the DIRACT, and you go down to talks. And if you click here on listen to the voice, I'm going to play for you. This was really key here. And Tom and I were privileged to be brought in on the development part of this. And a year ago or more, we were asked by Ortovox, what type of gender should the voice be? What volume, intonation, pace, all these characteristics to the voice, which they needed to determine to be the most clear and intuitive and effective. And it was really interesting to be part of that development. And in fact, of course, what the actual command was itself, we were involved in, whether the rescuer was told to drop to their knees or to kneel or to lower themselves. It was very interesting. So I'll play for you some of these here. This is the first one is in the signal search.
Run in 50 meters, search strips and look out.
So that's exactly the voice that you will hear, the rescuer will hear. And then as you enter course search.
Run straight. Keep right.
And then find search, like I mentioned before.
Go down to the snow surface. Search the smallest value.
So that gives you a little idea there. And again, we're going to answer all your questions here at the end. So if you queue those up. But now what I'd like to do is to give you a quick overview Let me get rid of my background here so you can all see the device. And I want to give you a quick overview of the operation of the transceiver. So when a student shows up and it's your first time seeing the device that you could help them and guide them, it's designed to be the most intuitive transceiver in the world, but still, it's good for you to know how to turn it on. And I'm going to just run through the basic operations. So as you see it here, pardon me with the screen if it's a little dark for you. Once we turn it on, it's going to be easier to see, but it's very simple and streamlined. Going along with the simplicity and the intuition, Ortovox wanted to make it have minimal switches and minimal things for the rescuer to have to think about. So addressing on and off and powering the device on and off, it's very important. We decided to put the on-off button on the back, not on the front of the device, and it's somewhat recessed under the search tab. So you hold that down for 2 seconds. You'll hear it turn on.
Send activated.
So the rescuer is verbally told which mode that they're in. You'll also see which antenna is transmitting. And if you're familiar with our smart antenna technology, you'll actually graphically see which antenna is transmitting its signal right now. Because it's in a vertical orientation, the accelerometer with our smart antenna technology has now shifted the antenna to transmit on the y-axis or the horizontal antenna. So this is key here. In order to optimize the battery strength, you will see that there is a screensaver function where it can time out. So don't be alarmed if your student or yourself is alarmed that the transceiver has turned itself off. It's never turned itself off. You just need to reactivate the screen with the flagging button. So in this mode now, when I first turned it on, you may have quickly seen group check. I'm not going to go into that, but that's one of the functions that you have right at the beginning to do a group check. But you'll always see standby mode here. So we've made standby mode very simple for the rescuer to activate. And if you have any questions on what standby mode does and the benefits to it, we're happy to go through that later here, but I'm going to assume maybe most of you know what that is. So to go into standby mode, you simply press down the flagging button and follow the instructions on the screen. And you toggle the search switch.
Standby activated.
So now I'm in standby. So briefly, I'm not transmitting a signal. I can't be a rogue signal that would interfere with the search, but I still have auto revert, which is key, and the device is not turned off. So you might find this helpful while teaching, and of course, in a multiple rescue scenario. And then to go back to send, you just toggle it again, and now you're back in send. So to go from send to search, you probably figured that out already, but you'll see a big orange tab on the back that's glove friendly that says search.
Walk straight.
So here we picked up a rogue signal in my office.
Keep right.
And you can see here, if you don't turn to the right, it'll tell you to turn to the right.
Walk to the left.
Okay. I was hoping it would say run in 20 meter search strips and look out, but we're
Run
not.
in 20-meter search strips and look out.
So now you're in search mode. As we've gotten this into more and more professional hands, I've really enjoyed hearing people's feedback on what they appreciate about the device. And one thing that we've heard is that now you have a transceiver that has a real visual indicator of whether the rescuer is still in transmit or is in search. So now you can look around with your group if you're in a multiple rescue scenario, and you can see if somebody is in search or not and no longer transmitting. So to turn off the unit, to power it off, I'll go back to send.
Send activated.
Hold down the on-off switch for 2 seconds, and now you have a two-step process. You have to hit the flagging button to turn the transceiver off, and you get a battery strength and a warranty date, and the software is indicated. Thank you. So that's just a quick guide to the basic operations and how it works. Let me go back into Ortovox brand mode here. And let me just take you through some of the other key features to it. So battery and charging. Yeah, let's talk about that quickly. So again, with brand new technology, this is completely unique and brand new to avalanche transceiver technology. We are no longer using a traditional alkaline battery. We have a lithium ion rechargeable battery, which is the world's first in an avalanche transceiver. But have no fear. Ortovox, of course, had this designed specifically to meet ICAR transceiver standards. It is a very unique lithium ion battery. It shares a lot of the same characteristics of lithium ion, where it's super cold tolerant to, I believe it's -20 degrees Fahrenheit. So it'll operate in the lowest temperatures possible, and it has a very long battery life to it. But as a result, what we're looking to get to is to have a safer device for the user, where there's no longer the hazards of leaking alkaline batteries or showing up at the trailhead underpowered. Now, talking more about the battery lifespan, what we've learned is that its actual battery cycle life, its lifespan from cradle to grave, is 450 cycles. A cycle is any time you plug it in to recharge it. The charging is recommended at 40%, similar to 30 or 40% for when you should change out your alkaline batteries in a traditional transceiver. But in order to preserve the battery life, the user manual recommends that you don't short charge it, meaning you shouldn't be charging it when it still has anywhere above 80% battery strength. So anytime you charge it below 80% or down to 40%, that's one cycle life, and it has 450 cycle lives in its entire lifespan. The life of each individual charge is 300 hours in send mode and 1 hour in search. So I think you're going to find that the battery is extremely reliable, long lasting. At the same time, though, we recommend to users that they bring the charging cable with them in their backpack, or at least in their car, similar to bringing spare batteries. So just in case, if they need to charge it up in their car, they can. It takes typically 1 to 2 hours for a full charge if it's empty. But of course, you won't need a full charge just to get out and finish your ski tour. Okay, some additional specs to go through. So it has auto revert, like I mentioned before. It's 120 seconds. It's motion activated. I will go through the fact that you can deactivate this when you go into Bluetooth settings. If you want to, in professional mode, you can deactivate the auto revert. The flagging will flag up to 4 signals consecutively without timing out. It still has the smart antenna to it, like I mentioned before. And RECO, of course, we are still the only transceiver that uses RECO in it. And here, I'll put this in front of my face. So now we put the RECO in the strap. It is no longer in the device itself. I mentioned it has Bluetooth configuration, and within Bluetooth mode, which is of course compatible with any cell phone, Android or Apple, you can do several things. You can deactivate auto revert. You can turn the voice navigation off. You can adjust the brightness of the screen. But most importantly, and the simple steps are just registering it, extending your warranty. And if you have a fleet of them, as a guide service now, you can do software updates in mass. You can do all 20 units at the same time to upgrade the software. And of course, any consumer will get a software update from us after registering, and they can do all of the updates with their phone at home. Last thing to mention is the range. As you've probably seen, is a 50-meter search strip. That's the optimal range, of course, if there's no electronic interference. And other resources, guys, as I'm wrapping up here, is you can find on the Dropbox resource that Vicky has provided. There is a user manual in there. There are 2 videos that you can watch, one by the product designer who will take you through all the functions and demonstrate for you in more depth all the functions of the beacon. And then we really want your feedback. If you get a chance to use it or experience your students using it, we have a feedback form that you can fill out, from just simple, great, we love it, to all the way down the rabbit hole. You can tell us what you think about the signal stability and the range and all that good stuff. So that is it for me. And how did we do? We're at 12:27.
Perfect. Greg, can you tell me where folks can find that feedback form? Was that included in the resources that you shared with us?
The feedback form we've just released, so it may not be there. I sent it to Sean and Emma and asked their suggestions on how to make it available. So
Okay.
if you don't see it now, it'll be there soon.
Okay, great. And as a reminder, all those resources that Greg just mentioned were emailed as part of the ARI instructor email on Monday. So go back and check your inbox. If you don't see that email, check your spam and put us on your safe list. There's really important information that ARI sends out, I think every other week at this point. Emma is also going to post all of those resources in the ARI Facebook instructor page. So you can definitely check there as well. We can open it up to Q&A. As I mentioned, if you have something, please go ahead and type it in. If it's a complex question, raise your hand and we'll call on you and get your question answered. Now, I don't see any questions right now. So Greg, maybe you can answer a question of mine, which is, how do people get their hands on this beacon if they don't already have one?
Okay, well, it's been, of course, with the supply chain issues, we did not get the quantity up front that we were hoping for. So at this point, all the inventory has been delegated and restricted just to our wholesale channel. But the good news is dealers have them. So go to your favorite mountaineering store, REI, online, and there are dealers selling the DIRACT Voice now. So it's out there, it's in consumers' hands. We are going to get more inventory coming in January, February, and we're hoping to be able to make them available for pros in maybe late January, early February, depending on how it goes. But so we apologize for that. But that's just the world we live in right now. So
that's for sure. We do have a question here. Why was the Ricoh reflector placed on the pouch? It's not useful if you pocket carry.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've listened to feedback, haven't we, Tom? And one of the things that we've heard from having the Ricoh in the transceiver was some concern from folks that do reco searches that it would interfere with the search, that it would cause, a rogue signal. And we heard that quite often. So we decided, well, let's just kind of split hairs here. So we still have it enabled for the rescuer, but we took it out of the transceiver itself. So yes, I agree. If you carry it in your hip pocket, maybe what you might want to do is just keep the harness in your backpack. Although if you look around yourself, you'll probably have Reco in your ski boot, in your ski jacket, and they live in many different places. But it was really because of concerning feedback that we'd heard from professionals about it interfering with the Reco search.
So, and I can add to that, we were the first company to put a Reco reflector inside the transceiver. And of course, it wasn't removable. So this was the step to, if somebody preferred not to have the Reco reflector, then they could do that via the harness rather than, obviously we wouldn't recommend opening up the transceiver with a 3+ or a Zoom Plus to remove the Reco reflector. So we wanted to give the option of having a Reco or not, and prior it was not an option. So good question.
Right. I don't have any other questions.
Greg, you did an amazing job. No questions.
I know, you guys were very thorough.
If you don't ask a question, we're going to keep talking.
Right. We'll thread.
All right.
Okay.
Well, Greg, did you want to share any information about how ARI instructors might access Pro Deals?
Sure. So obviously we have a Pro Deal program for all professionals and ARI instructors. So basically I'm just going to provide to you right now my email address and you can reach out to me. I handle all the professionals directly. And whether it's just for personal use, we can provide you with a web code that you can use on our website. And of course, I'll let you know if they're available or not. You can also go to our website and you'll see it says coming soon. So you won't be able to put it in your shopping cart right now. But it's better though, if you want them for your guide service and you want a fleet of them to work with me just directly anyway. And so my email is very simple. It's G as in Greg and then Mears. So gmears@ortovox.com.
And Mears is spelled MEARS.
Thank you. So yes, and we'd be glad to set you up. One thing that we didn't mention too, just so there's no confusion, is there is a second device that doesn't have voice technology to it called the DIRACT. And so it's not going to be as popular, we don't imagine, because it's for only $60 more at retail, you can get the voice technology, but there is a non-voice version that shares all the same features as the DIRACT voice. And it's got a different color on the back. It's gray rather than black, and it doesn't say voice on the face to it. And that's just the DIRACT. And if you guys are curious what the retail is, the DIRACT is $320 and the DIRACT voice is $380.
Great. We did have another question come in. I have a 2012 3+ that has been updated. Does it have the Reco in it?
2012. Oh boy, you're racking the brain. Let's see. No, 13, 14 was the year that all, well, yeah, so now we're expounding here, but yeah, Zoom Plus, 3+, S1 Plus in the 13, 14 season was the first year that we had Reco inside the transceiver. So negative. And if there's, we do have some time, and I love to use time, but I would equally love to hear just people's impression. What's your gut feeling about DIRACT voice, and what do you think of the direction, and do you see a benefit to the user? Even if there's, not technical questions, we're happy to hear impressions as well. So throw that out there.
Getting early feedback.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
And for those of you who are area instructors who work for an area provider, Ortovox has generously donated a handful of these beacons to the area fleet. And so for those of you who have colleagues who are taking instructor training or pro training with area this year, those folks will be able to get their hands directly on one of these beacons and test it out, on the snow and in some scenarios. So if you know anybody who's going through our courses this year, reach out to them and ask them what they thought.
mm-hmm.
No questions, no initial feedback. Well, I imagine that, Greg, you might get some questions and some feedback since you gave your email out to everybody, and I am sure that's just fine with you. I know that you all really encourage dialogue here, so please feel free to do that.
Yeah.
Great. Well, with that, we will end today's webinar. Thank you so much to Tom and Greg for joining us and sharing this new technology. I look forward to hearing more about it as folks start using it this season. As a reminder, please seek out that feedback form if you are using it. Emma will send it out in the survey in an email that comes out after this, and we'll link it again on that Facebook instructors page as well. So take a peek at that. And as a reminder, we do have 3 upcoming webinars in our series, some really exciting stuff coming up here. So go take a look at our website for those and sign up directly for those. Thank you so much, Greg and Tom. Great to see you, and appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us.
Thanks, Vicki. Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody joining. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a safe and snowy season.